Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to review the science fiction comedy Evolution. And this film airs more on the end of fiction comedy than it does science. There really isn't a whole lot of science in this movie. Pretty much the only thing that could be labeled as science is the title. There are some brief nods to Darwin's theory, but after that it takes off and runs into a direction that only can exist in a science fiction movie, which is fine because it's an extremely entertaining science fiction comedy. It was not meant to be a science lesson. But I just would hate to think that this movie would give anybody some ideas about how evolution is supposed to work, because this is not the film that you want to be referring to for your lessons on evolution. But it's directed by Ivan Reitman, and that right there is hard to go wrong with. He's a very entertaining director. David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, and the other main character whose name I never can remember, Seann William Scott, are all extremely entertaining in their roles. And then you've got Julianne Moore as the female lead, who is funny. She does some really nice slapstick in this movie. Not to mention she plays a bright, strong researcher who is also astoundingly attractive. And then you've got a cameo by Dan Aykroyd. It's just got all the bells and whistles in this. It is fun from beginning to end. It's really nicely paced. The basic storyline is that a meteor falls from the sky and lands in the middle of nowhere, right near a know-nothing community college where Orlando Jones and David Duchovny both work. They go out there to take a look at it because Orlando Jones plays a geologist, and it is his duty as a member of the geological board to investigate these kinds of things, and it gives them an excuse to get out in a Jeep and drive into the desert. They discovered that the meteor in question oozes liquid. That is not normal. They take a sample, they discover that it is a life form, not one from here. And from then, the wacky hijinks ensue. The basic concept is that within this cave that this meteor falls into, the life begins to evolve and slowly begin to develop into more and more complex forms, till eventually it begins to display a genuine threat to humanity. There's a small problem with this, and that's where the science falls down. There's no problem with an alien organism coming here and adapting to our environment. But in the single cell form, which is what it's seen in originally, it is the best stage in its development to adapt to our world. It's going to develop quickly. It's going to develop in a more random manner because its genetic structure is simpler at that level. The more complex you become, the more difficult it is to get random positive mutations. Because on a single cell level, you're going to get lots of crappy mutations. It doesn't matter because you're also going to get lots of positive ones. So you can adapt faster. That's why viruses and such are so good at overcoming vaccines, because they develop so quickly. And their genetic structure is less complex and less stable, RNA structure rather than DNA structure. So they have more mutations, which means they adapt more quickly. But the cave that this stuff lands in is a dry cave. Lots of those exist in America. That means that it's dead. There's no water. There's nothing in it. It's just a hollow hole in the ground. Which means there's nothing there for anything to eat, which means there's not going to be any evolution. In the real life, this thing would either die or go dormant. And since it's come across the entire reaches of space from who knows where, dormancy seems to be something it excels at. So that's what's probably going to happen. You're going to have to expose it to energy, light, water, air, and from the film it shows you that it can't handle our atmosphere. So it has to adapt to our atmosphere as well. And if you throw out the science and you get to see cool things evolve inside this cave that we have never looked at, alien life forms evolving in very strange and warped and twisted ways, it's really cool to watch. The computer animation, it's not the top notch. I mean, it's 2001, but they did a nice job. A lot of the designs are very interesting. They did go out of their way to come up with alien creatures that really did push the limits of what a biological organism could be. It doesn't have to be something that we're familiar with, which is very cool. Again, the writing's good. The timing's nice. There's enough action to keep you interested. There's enough cliches. There's jokes everywhere, both from intentional things to just slapstick stuff to situational humor. It's just a lot of fun. I enjoyed this when I saw it in the theaters. I rented it a few years later and enjoyed it, and now I watched it this time with the commentary track. And you've got Reitman, Duchovny, Jones, and Scott. All of them are there. It is just a really lovely commentary track. You get to hear about all the background information, these people just chatting with each other. They like each other, they're getting along, they're talking about the camaraderie they had on the set. It was just a good time. So if you're looking for something that's just not serious, and it's fun, and a commentary track that you're going to enjoy listening to, I definitely recommend Evolution.